few years ago, I was doing some work for the genealogy company Find My Past. As a historian who often uses the census, we filmed in the area where they were digitising the census, and we never actually get to see census documents. We fill them in, you can download them, but you never see the physical documents. Because of this amazing privilege of doing this work, they had prepared for me the census returns from 1921 filled in by my great-grandparents. And one of them for my great-grandfather and my grandfather had been sent to the house that I lived in on Newton Street in Gateshead in the 1970s. The census return for my grandmother listed some of her siblings who, in the 1920s, in the Depression, I never knew as adults because they never became adults. That encounter with the past, seeing my grandfather's name on a document when he was a teenage boy, the great-grandfather I never met, of all the things I've done as an historian, has reminded me of something fundamental to history, which is that it's about place. All history is really local history. And sometimes, every now and then, the power of history, the emotional power, not the intellectual power of history, is overwhelming. I'm not in the habit of crying at work. I certainly did that day. There's a circularity about being back here today, back in my hometown. And the circularity is enhanced by the fact that I'm here with Councillor McHenry. The last time I was in this building, I think, was January 1996. And I was here, as Councillor Ganga mentioned, because there was the possibility, just the possibility, of a discretionary grant. I only knew about it because my mother was aware of it and suggested I applied, because I had a place at journalism school, but I didn't have the money to take up that place. I came in here in my graduation suit and sat in front of Councillor Henry and his colleagues and made my case. The one thing I remember saying is that I wanted to use my voice, if I became a journalist, to talk about the North East, to talk about my hometown. I'd just written a master's thesis about the slums of Gateshead in the 19th century. I'd like to think that I've lived up to that rather bold claim by a 26-year-old, that I'd be able to use my voice if I became a public figure, if I became a journalist, to remind people, to tell the stories of my hometown. By the time I got home, after having the meeting with Councillor Henry, he'd already phoned. My mum was able to tell me that I did have the money and I could go to journalism school. I phoned the journalism school, I was there 2 days later. It was a small amount of money, but it was absolutely pivotal in my life. Those little interventions, and that was just one of the thousands of little interventions made by decisions made in this room and the rooms before it, into the lives of people of Gateshead, are absolutely transformative. The building of the Leisure Centre in the 1980s was the place where I cured myself of my asthma, where the confidence that I needed to go to university, to do other things in my life, was built doing sports that I would previously never have had access to. Decisions made in this room changed my life, and they changed the lives of thousands of my fellow citizens of my hometown. It is deeply moving to receive this honour. It's wonderfully circular. As a writer, I look for patterns and circularity. To do so alongside Councillor Henry, all those years later, after the decision that really was the fork in the road in my life, is more meaningful than I can express. Thank you so much.